Alrighty, friends, we are going to finish up the rest of this. I finished on the first number 12. I'm going to start on the second number 12. And there is no 13, so go figure. Okay. So when I'm solving, one thing I need to pay attention to is what can I not get as an answer, and that is whatever makes the bottom 0. So here, for this to be 0, x would have to be -2. That's going to be a number I can't use. Here, for x plus 5 on the bottom to equal 0, x would have to be -5. So that's a number I can't use. So just keep that in mind when I go to do my solutions later and check that I don't get those numbers. I like to put anything that's got plus or minus with it in parentheses. Nothing factors here because everything's a plain x. And there's only one fraction equaling another fraction, not one fraction added to another, which means I can do cross multiplying. So I'll have x times x plus 5 equals x plus 2 times x minus 3. So this is going to take some foiling and distributing. Distributing over here and foiling over here. First, outside, inside, last. These two go together as a -1x. Now I need to start solving, so I need everything to one side. But if I move this x squared over by subtraction, it actually cancels out of both sides, which is slick. Because now I have 5x equals -x minus 6. I can gather all the x's over here. And I do get that x is going to be 1. So I check up here to see if that's problematic. And it's not. Hang on, I'm looking at the old key. The old key says that it's a -1. But I feel like, oh, yep. Because here when I add this over, this would have stayed a -6. So when I divide by 6, I get -1. That was not one of my eliminated options. So then -1 is my solution. So x squared minus 2 could potentially factor, but only if they were both squares. Sorry, there was something on my screen and now I wiped everything away. So it does not factor. And so when I cross multiply, x times x becomes x squared, and then -1 gets multiplied by this whole bottom. So I'm just distributing a negative, which actually turns this to positive. I'm going to add this x squared over to the other side. So there are 2 of them. Dividing by 2, I get that x squared equals 1. And so if I square root that with plus minus, x is going to either be positive or -1. Let me go back to the top and see. Here, if x is 0, it'll make the bottom 0, so I can't use that. And here, this one will only be 0 if x squared is 2. So x would be plus or minus root 2. So I didn't get either of those answers. So I get plus or minus 1 as my answers, and those are legit. All right. Let's see. I am on 15. So here I'm looking at these denominators, 3x, 6, and 3x. They have some things in common, but not everything. And I need a common denominator because now I have addition in my problem. Let me think about the bottom. 3x will be 0 when x is 0. But 6 is never going to be 0. So the only way the bottom can be 0 is if x is 0. I need a common denominator. For the numbers that I have, 3 and 6, I could use a 6. But I also need an x. And then I'm going to go fraction by fraction and adjust the top. That 2 is over 3x, but I need it to be 6x. So I'd have to times it by 2. So therefore, I times the top by 2. The 1 is already over 6, but not x, so I'd have to multiply it by x. The 4 is over 3x, but I need 6x on the bottom, so I'd have to times it by 2. So I have to times the 4 by 2 as well. The top is what I'm going to actually solve, and I know that I'm solving because 1, it says solve, and 2, I have an equal sign. And then the bottom doesn't do anything except tell me what numbers I can't use. So 2 times 2 is 4, 1x is the same as x, and 4 times 2 is 8. So this is actually super easy to solve. I got a 4, which is not 0, so I'm good, and 4 is my solution. This one I did in class, so just give me a second to get rid of all that. Okay, so here I like to put these in parentheses, so I kind of think of them as each little grouping. Now on the bottom, I need an x plus 6, which will accommodate this guy and this guy, but then I have this like loner x, so I need to have that as well. Now I'm going to do the same thing. Fraction by fraction, I'm going to take the top and I'm going to look at the bottom. The bottom of this has an x plus 6, which is this part, but it's missing this x, so I would have to multiply that to the top, whatever was missing. How about the 1? Well, the 1 was over the x, but not the x plus 6, so I have to multiply by the part that it was missing. Over here, 2x plus 1 is already over the x plus 6, but it is missing the other x, so I have to have another x by it. So I'm multiplying each thing by the part of the bottom that it didn't have before. This I'm going to solve, and the bottom I'm just going to use to say, hey, here, x plus 6 will equal 0 when x is negative 6, so that's going to be a number I have to exclude. And here, x will be 0 when x is 0, which is another number I'm going to exclude. But for solving, I'm only going to worry about the top. I need to distribute my x. Then distributing a 1 doesn't really do anything. And distributing this x, I land here. All right, I need everybody to one side. So I'm going to take this x squared over. These two can actually go together and just be 2x plus 6. Here, 2x squared minus x squared is going to leave me with just one of them. I'm going to take these two over here because I'm trying to get it equal to 0 so I can factor it. 1 minus 2 is negative 1x. And then I'm going to take away the 6. So I have x squared minus 1x minus 6. I'm going to factor that, which is how I solve. And I need 6, either 1 and 6 or 2 and 3, but they have to subtract to be 1. So I'm going to have to go with the 2 and the 3. I need it to be a negative 1, so I need a minus 3 and a plus 2. In order for that to be 0, x would have to either equal negative 2 or positive 3. Since neither one of those is canceled out, they're both legitimate solutions, and I leave them. It doesn't happen a ton that you end up canceling out answers, but it does happen. All right, these are the 2 types of word problems that I need to be ready to do. A company hires a market analyzer with an initial signing bonus of $7,000. That's just an amount that they get for doing nothing, just for showing up, plus additional salary of $2,800 per month. That's the thing that tells me, hey, this is multiplied by the number of months, and it says later to use that as an x, so I'll do that. Per is going to tell you that's the rate that you're getting paid at. So if you're writing this equation, it's like an mx plus b equation, and this flat starting amount is the b value, and this per something is going to be the m. So I would have y equals mx plus b. Here, I guess I wrote the b out front. So anyway, that is the how much he's getting paid. It says write an equation that gives the company's cost after x months. So the cost is going to equal this. It says after x months. So the cost will be $7,000 plus $2,800 per month. Now it says average, and then cost per month means cost over months. Keep in mind that X is representing the number of months. So I'm simply going to take my cost from up above, so how much it costs to have that person, and divide it by the number of months. That's how I get the average. All right, After how many months will the average cost, so that's this thing I just wrote, be $2,900. And if it makes your life easy, put it over 1. Then you can cross multiply. I didn't leave myself very much room. So I'll have 7,000 plus 2,800x, because that just got multiplied by 1, equals 2,900x. So if I move the 2,800x over by subtraction, 2,900 minus 2,800 is going to leave me with 100x. And then if I divide both of these by 100, I'm going to end up with 70 months. Now that's just like the one we did, like there was a model, they were building models or something. So know how to do those kind of average problems. And then we've done these together a few times too, where they say, hey, the basketball player made 12 of 20. So that's how many are made out of total. And we had one where it was like the number of wins out of the total games. But that says it's 60%. I don't care about that because I could figure out on my own that 12 out of 20 is 60%. Here where it says write an expression for her average if she makes her next X consecutive shots, it means she's going to make the next X, but that means her total number of shots goes up by X as well. So the average is going to be 12 plus X over 20 plus X because she has to take X more shots and make them all. Now it's asking you to how many that is. So it's actually asking you to solve for X. And so here you're actually going to go ahead and solve in order to have a 75% average. So I'm going to probably go like this, and then I like to put it as 75 out of 100 just because then it's easier for me to do my math. So I have 100, instead of involving a decimal, you can definitely do a decimal if you'd rather. So this is going to be 1,200 plus 100x. This is going to be 1,500 plus 75x. I'm going to take away 75. Like this is all just algebra 1 now. It's just setting it up correctly that can be confusing. Oh, hang on. Sorry about that. I copied this part, but 100 minus 75 doesn't cancel out. It leaves me with 25. I'm writing so messy. Let's try that again. That's going to leave me with 25 x's. And then on this side, I don't have any x's left because I canceled those all out. So at this point, I'll take away the 1,200. I'm still just doing algebra. So I have 25x equals 300. So if I divide that, I'm going to get that x equals 12 more shots. So these, again, set up the same every time. So just kind of get yourself to recognize the situation and set the problem up in the same manner, and then you can rock it. All right, good luck, guys.